What if everything you were ever told about your emotions was completely and utterly wrong? People say, oh, you have no control over your emotions. It comes from some deep, ancient part of your brain and it's completely outside your control. Nothing could be further from the truth. You have an amazing amount of emotional control. And you say, Paul, that's not my experience. That's because you don't know how to do it. How can you do something that you don't know how to do? They say emotions are the things that we have the most of, but know the least about. This isn't my theory. This is science. And I'm going to prove it to your satisfaction that you have an amazing amount of control, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. So if you ever wanted emotional control in your life, this is the master life skill of happiness, joy, success, and fulfillment. Watch all the way to the end of the video. If you don't, I'm a therapist. I'm going to call it you're clinically insane. So let's jump right in. Now, to understand how your brain works and how you create emotions, you need to understand two things. The first one is anatomy. What are the substructures of the brain that lead you to have emotions? These are the physical components. The second part is the thought processes. How you create meaning, how you determine what things are, and how you assign emotions, essentially, to different things going on in your life. So let's start with the first part, the anatomy. Now, the first part of the anatomy is the amygdala. That's the sensory alarm system. It's the quick reaction. So its motto is notice first, ask questions later. Like if a woman is running towards me and she's screaming and yelling, my amygdala is instantly going to try to sense, is she excited to see me? Oh my God. And she runs over and she gives me a big hug and a kiss. Or if she's coming at me with a knife. You can see where for my survival, this will be wildly important. That's the amygdala. Now the next structure in your brain is the hippocampus. That's the record keeper. Like if historically, I have a lot of women running towards me, yelling and screaming, and they are carrying the knives, the hippocampus may say, hey, you may want to put that in statistically into your analysis and figure you might want to beat feet. It's telling you what's probably going to happen. This is also why you have senses that trigger things, because the hippocampus remembers, say, a particular smell that you remember from the past, and it gets linked mentally with an emotion. Now, once you smell something like that, maybe a perfume or something like that, you will be triggered by that memory through the hippocampus. It's the record keeper. Now let's talk about the hypothalamus. That's the part of the brain that when the amygdala says freak out, it freaks out. And you get the sweaty palms, the sweaty forehead, the racing heart, all these fear emotions, or whatever the emotion may be. This is the reactionary part of the brain. It's going to cause any and all of your physical symptoms. Now, the next structure is the insula. The insula is the part of the brain that fires off when the amygdala freaks out, sends it to the hypothalamus that gives you all those bodily sensations. Then the insula jumps in and says, what do all these bodily sensations mean? My forehead's sweating and my heart's thumping. What does that mean? Does that mean I'm on a roller coaster and I'm excited? Or am I being chased down the street by somebody with a gun and I'm in fear of my life? What does it mean? And it assigns that meaning. It triggers that emotion. Now, finally, the fifth part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex. This is the thinking, rational part of your brain. It kind of plays detective. It says, okay, so there was this signal, and then the amygdala freaked out, and the hypothalamus, and then the insula, and all this stuff's going on. What is actually going on? Let's make a rational determination and decide what we should do about it. That's the prefrontal cortex. Hey, I hope you're getting massive value out of this. Please like and share. Go ahead and leave me some comments down below. If you have a question for me, I try to get back to you within 48 hours. I'm constantly looking over those comments. I want to get back to you as soon as I can. You can also suggest some video topics if you'd like to do that, and hit the share button. You were given this. You were fortunate enough to find this training. You're learning how to master your mind. Other people need this. Believe me, you will be a rock star hero if you send this to a friend or just send it out there in the universe. Somebody unbeknownst to you will be helped like this, and boy, that's good karma. Now, with a quick analysis, you can see out of the 5 factors, 4 of them happen automatically. That's outside your control. That's your initial reaction. But the final one, the 5th one, the big thumb, that's the prefrontal cortex. It says, whoa, slow down. I'll decide what this means, and therefore I'll decide how we feel about it. There's this huge debate about whether or not we have a thought and then that creates a feeling, or we have a feeling and that creates a thought. In almost all circumstances, probably about 98% of circumstances, the vast majority, you have a thought about something and then it creates a feeling. But in that 2%, that's when you kick in those 4 parts of the brain before the prefrontal cortex has a chance to jump in, and the emotion then starts driving the thoughts. So it goes from feeling to thought. It's rare, but not really rare. I mean, hey, 2%. 2% happens several times a day. So now I'm going to teach you the specific tools, strategies, and techniques to control your brain, your feelings, your emotions. Basically control the whole of your life. Because what happens is, something happens in life and then you have a certain thought about it. And based on that thought, you have a certain feeling and then you take a certain action. And boom, your life goes on autopilot if you don't know how to control 2 things, your thoughts and your feelings. Actually, in 98% of cases, remember the prefrontal cortex, it's going to come down to just controlling your thoughts. The 2%, they'll get away from you for a minute, but then we'll calm them right down with what? Once again, the prefrontal cortex. Until you can control that, you can't control anything. But that's the part of your brain that's actually conscious and not reactionary. So we can train that puppy and do a great job at it. And then we can literally dominate our emotions, at least in the 98th percentile. So how do we do it? Well, your thoughts are always going to match your feelings. So if you have a scary thought, you're going to feel scared. If you have angry thoughts, you're going to get angry. If you have happy thoughts, you're going to feel happy. You're simply going to have those thoughts. It's going to trigger those 4 areas in your brain and create that emotional reaction, and it all goes on autopilot. So all you have to do is to be able to control the thought, and you'll control the feeling. That's strategy number 1. Here's another thing that your brain constantly does. Write this down. It's always trying to figure out 2 things. What does this mean, and what do I need to do about it? Those are the 2 things your brain needs to know, and it wants to know it right away. Your brain is not good at holding a question mark in your mind. It wants to resolve things one way or the other. So, what does this mean is the question about emotions. Remember I gave you the example, your forehead's sweating and your heart's palpitating and you're on a roller coaster and you say, does this mean I'm terrified because I'm on a roller coaster and my head's sweating and my heart's beating? Or does it mean I'm excited, I'm thrilled, I'm having the ride of my life? Why? Because my forehead's sweating and my heart's beating and this is great. You are deciding what's happening. I've got this stimuli, and then what does it mean? You are a creature of placing meaning on things. And here's what feelings are. Write this down. A feeling is the meaning that you give to an event. That's it. Something happens, or you have a thought, and then you place a meaning on it. That meaning creates emotion. If your significant other walks in the room and says, that's it, I'm out of here. Well, now you know what happened. And the second part is, what does this mean? What does this mean is going to determine your emotions about them doing that. Are you saying to yourself, meaning, thank God they left so somebody decent could come into my life? That's one meaning, right? Or, oh no, I just lost the man or woman of my dreams. I need a tissue. And feel sad. That's a second meaning. Now, depending upon which one you pick, then those 4 parts of your brain are going to trigger and give you the appropriate emotion to match the meaning you gave it. Now, if you become what I call a master of meaning, you will be emotionally strong. Why? Because you're deciding what things mean. Like, I used to get bummed out if I got, downsized or right-sized and they fired me from my job or whatnot. I can guarantee you if I was given two choices, one, hey, Paul, you can keep your job. Two, we can fire you. You know which one I'd pick every single time? I'd pick, hey, I want to keep my job. But you know what? As it worked out in life, and this could be a lot of luck, every time I got downsized, I ended up getting another position. I chose it more carefully. It was a better position, raises, promotions, extra autonomy, better tasks to do that I enjoyed more, all kinds of great things. I used to joke that I was just 3 more firings away from being independently wealthy. I could just make enough for retirement because my income kept going up every time I got laid off too. You would think it would go down. No, it went down for a few months, but then the raises and promotions on the new job made it go up and up and up. So when I was sad about losing those jobs, I was actually, unbeknownst to me, assigning the wrong meaning. I should have said, I don't even know how to feel about this right now. You know why? Big question mark. I don't know whether to be joyous because my next job's going to be better or to be sad because I'm losing money until I get my next job and my next job's going to be the same or worse. Then I should be appropriately sad. But to be sad simply because you lost your job, that's not actually logical. You have no way, because you can't see into the future, to even know how you should feel. And given the fact that if you were to assign a feeling to it, you'd be making it up. Why aren't you making it up in your favor? You're making it up anyways. Say, this isn't bad. This won't be long. I'll bet you there's a good chance the next job's even better. Then you'd feel great between now and whenever you get that next job. I'm not sure what's going to happen in that next job, but why feel lousy in between when you can feel good? And isn't that a better and more positive way? Won't you show up at your interviews looking significantly better when you're positive about your future and not overly eager to grab any old stinking job just to relieve these horrible emotions of, oh my God, I don't have a job? That's called panic and despair. That's not a good negotiation stance. And it's not a good way to live, and it's not a good feeling. We are always determining what things mean, and then that creates the feeling. Remember that, write it down, and practice it, and live it. Make it a philosophy that I'm going to give better meanings to things, meanings that are helpful to me instead of hurtful to me, that move me in the direction I want to go instead of away from where I want to go. Things that help me gain my goals and feel the way I want to feel instead of hurting me and wounding me and making me feel like I got an anchor around my neck. That's what anxiety and depression is. It's you assigning the wrong meaning. Even overthinking. Overthinking is a meaning error. Oh, I'm going to try to figure out everything, give thousands of meanings to something that can only have one possible meaning. Come on, guys. Overthinking is a logic error by the sheer act of overthinking. Anxiety is a logic error. You're worrying and worrying and worrying about all these imaginary scenarios and picturing them, triggering those 4 parts of your brain that have nothing to attach to except anxiety, and they're going to make you feel really anxious and they're going to hurt you. And the same thing with depression. You make things big and bright, and that's what those 4 factors of your brain lock onto, and that's the emotion you get. And man, people have killed themselves, and they don't even know what's going to happen next. But they're so fearful of the things they imagined. But guess what? They're all imaginary. And if they had actually taken a course like this and learned how to control their mind, they would have chose to picture it better. Or like a Zen master, to be able to keep that question mark in their mind and say, I don't know what this means. I'm going to wait. I'm going to see. And when it happens, maybe then I'll react. Remember I told you that the brain's always asking 2 questions? What does this mean and what do I need to do about it? We're assigning meaning all the time. And one of the ways that we do that is by asking and answering questions. But I'll tell you, sometimes we have the worst questions in the whole world. I'll tell you, people that are happy and joyous, they have happy and joyous questions that they ask themselves, like, what's really great about this? And, what could happen in my future? And this is so exciting. And I can't wait to see what happens next. And, I see this cool thing happening and, this great thing's going to happen. And pretty soon I'm going to have this thing that I've wanted my whole life. And they picture that really brightly in their mind and they enjoy that and they're happy. Here's what a depressed person does. They go, how bad does my life suck and what else can go wrong? And what if this happened? They what if all over themselves, or they should on themselves. Geez, you're such a dummy. You should have done this and you should have done that. And man, they should all over themselves. They ask lousy questions. What the hell's wrong with you? And why are you so stupid? And why does this always happen to you? And why are people always screwing me? And why is the world so evil? Gosh, these are great questions. If you want to create the perfect system for depression, anxious people do the same thing. What else could happen? And what if this happens? And I couldn't survive this. And I got to figure out how to solve this because what if this happens? And 99.9% of everything you worry about never, ever happens. Anxiety is a nervous disorder. You think about things, you ask questions to make yourself nervous, and then you feel the nervousness, you trigger those 4 parts of your brain, and then you overthink it. You do it again and again and again. So some people say, oh, I have a problem with overthinking. Then you probably have anxiety and depression. If you have anxiety and depression, I guarantee you overthink. These are the same people. It's the same system. I hope you can see that. So shut down the thinking, and then all depression, all anxiety, and all overthinking goes away. Learn to calm your mind. That's what meditation is. Meditation takes the many thoughts and the crazy thoughts and the thoughts going everywhere and says, slow down, relax, focus. Let's look at one thing. Let's look at it slowly. Let's look at it logically. Let's take our time. Let's analyze it. And let's do it with purpose, which means something good is going to come out of this. We're going to figure something out and then we're going to take productive action. That's it. All the overthinking goes away. A meditative mind like that doesn't focus on anxiety, it doesn't focus on depression, and it sure as heck doesn't overthink. It goes in the opposite direction, and you have what? Peace, serenity, solutions, and now the energy to make all these great things happen. That's a great solution. So I hope you see now that the science is that even though there's some initial reactions, your prefrontal cortex, your thinking mind, can jump in and immediately control it. How? By controlling the thoughts and the questions you ask. Do those 2 things and you can beat almost any mental disorder, any bad emotions, any low self-esteem, any challenges that you have in life. Why? Because you control you. Once you control you, virtually everything else in life you can handle. Because you're doing it from a place of power. Other people, because they can't control their emotions, they're constantly living and doing things from a place of weakness. That's why I started this YouTube channel. I knew people didn't know how to even control their mind, and then they're good, honest, hardworking people, and they're trying and they're struggling and they're fighting to get through life, and everything is painful and it feels like there's 1,000 pounds on their shoulder and they have nobody to help them. And 98% of them can't afford to go out and spend $200-300 an hour on a therapist, and they wouldn't if they could. But a good friend that comes to them gives them some simple tools and strategies. They can go out and use them, get them working, feel better tonight, go to bed, and then learn another tool and another tool and another tool. It's simple as watching a video, thinking about it, practicing it, and then after you practice it for a while, it becomes a philosophy, and then it becomes effortless. And your life becomes effortless, and your control of your emotions becomes effortless. I don't do a lot of strategies and a lot of techniques to control my emotions. They're virtually always under control. Why? Because my entire thought process has been rewired to do things almost on autopilot, by habit, by reflex. And my philosophies are in line to not get upset about like 95, 98% of these things to start with. So I never have to unupset myself. I never get upset in the first place. How cool is that? That's my wish for you. My name is Professor Paul, and I'll see you in my next training. Go ahead and hit that playlist, figure out which training you need the most, and go for it.